Hello.
What's up, brother? How you doing?
Oh, I'm glad to see you.
Thank you, thank you. Tell him to shut that door.
Oh,
Shut that door.
it's
Thank you.
it's truly a pleasure to see you today. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. It means a lot to our audience. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce a relentless warrior of the super middleweight division, Kevin Newman. A fighter with power, experience, and the mindset of a true competitor. With 18 victories and 11 knockouts, he brings intensity, discipline, and hunger into every battle. Kevin, welcome to Boxing on Sundays.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you for having me. Thank you.
My word, Kevin, every fighter has a beginning. Every champion once had a first dream. I'd love to start from the very start of your journey.
So for,
When
for
when
so,
did when did you first fall in love with boxing and what attracted you to the sport?
I first fell in love with boxing when I was like around 3 years old. I My mom had bought me my first pair of boxing gloves. They both said "boom boom" on them, and like it was just like when I put them on, it was just like a love at first sight thing. And then my dad had a heavy bag that he had up in the garage, and I hit that and stuff like that. But just seeing Mike Tyson fights as a little kid, 5 years old and stuff like that, it just really like piqued my interest. And then plus I was a big Rocky fan as a kid, so I used to love watching Rocky movies and stuff like that, and just all boxing stuff. So I've been in love with this sport as long as I can remember.
Growing up shapes a fighter's mentality.
Yeah.
The environment builds toughness. What was your childhood like and how did it influence the fighter you become?
It was tough for a while. My mom, for a while, she was a single mother raising two children. Um, my dad, may he rest in peace. Uh, he was in and out of our lives and stuff like that. And I mean, my sister and I had a lot of anger built up growing up because of that. You know what I'm saying? And I was a daddy's boy, and I always wanted to be with them. So, it used to really upset me when I couldn't be with them or wouldn't see them for long periods of time. So but I mean, I've always been a fighter, but I think that really shaped me. And made me, I guess, in a way, like, I was just searching for approval for a while, because I felt like as a kid, I felt like I wasn't good enough. You know what I'm saying? So, and I think that had a lot to do with it, plus the anger and the rage and stuff that I felt growing up because my dad wasn't around. So, I mean, I think a lot of that had to do with it for sure.
Before we talk about the big fights and achievements, I would really like to go back to the beginning of your journey. Every fighter has someone who first believed in him and
Yeah.
helped him take the first step in boxing. Who was your first boxing coach and what was the most important lesson he taught you when you were just starting your journey in the sport?
My first boxing coach was Jeff Mayweather. I first started, who's Floyd's uncle. I first started working with him when I was 9 years old. And, I remember him telling me when I was a kid, I was really, really talented. And, he thought I had amazing defense and stuff like that. And, you know, uh, he really, he taught me a lot in a short period of time. Like I started boxing with him at 9. Then he ended up leaving to go train Shannon Briggs down in Florida. And so I had stopped boxing for a few years and then came back at 16. When I came back at 16, he was my full head trainer from then on till I was about 20, I want to say about 23. But he taught me a lot, man. I mean, how to be defensively responsible, of course. You know, uh, that was his biggest thing. He was like, when you're done with this sport, I want you to be able to walk, talk, and be completely healthy when you're done. So he really showed me a lot, and I appreciate the game that he gave me as a young fighter.
Kevin, every professional fighter has a story that begins in the amateur ranks.
Yeah.
Those early years often shape the future champion. How did your amateur boxing journey begin?
Well, actually, see, for me, I didn't have the biggest amateur background. That was the thing. Like I was 30-5 as an amateur. Um, the main like I it was tough getting to tournaments and things like that, and just getting fights. Period. At that time, that I was amateur. So, but I had a lot of experience sparring professionals. I sparred a lot of professionals at a young age coming up. And that really helped shape me and mold me, and it kind of taught me the game. I was a professional in the amateurs anyway, so after I won the ringside world championships in, what was that, 2013, uh, Floyd Mayweather was like, "Look, Kev," he was like, it's he's like, "Man, what you doing, man? It's time to go professional." And I mean, I always had a professional style. I wish I would have gotten a little bit more of experience back then, because once you turn pro, there's no going back. But I think my journey turned out exactly the way God had it planned for me.
Um, Such a detail is interesting. Do you remember your very first day in the boxing gym?
Yeah, no, I do. The my very first day in the boxing gym when I was 9, um, I remember coming to the gym and I had watched so many Rocky movies, so much Muhammad Ali and stuff like that, that I remember Jeff was like, he was like, "Show me how you stand." And then he was like, "Let me see how you stand." He's like, let me see you throw some punches." And I just remember being in the mirror and I threw a couple punches, and it looked, it was kind of reminiscent of like Rocky Balboa. It was kind of wild and, stuff like that. And, he was like, "No, no, no, that's not how you do it." So he kind of showed me how I was supposed to stand correctly, and changed me because I was fighting in a southpaw stance. Like most people that are right-handed, they start off in a southpaw stance for some reason. I think it's just naturally putting that lead hand is like their dominant hand. So he switched me to orthodox, and then he just showed me different things from there.
Muhammad Ali is my idol.
Yeah,
I loved him after the movie with Will Smith.
yeah, yeah. Great movie, great movie, great movie. Muhammad Ali is always been my favorite fighter. Him and Roy Jones Jr. Those two guys are always 1A, 1B for me. Those were always my favorite fighters growing up. So I watched so much Muhammad Ali as a kid, so much Roy Jones Jr., playing the video games. It's like I'm either picking Ali or I'm picking Roy Jones, So those two are my idols too, for sure, in boxing.
Legendary list.
Yeah.
Every fighter remembers the nerves before the first fight. The first ring walk is always special. What do you remember most about your first amateur fight?
Um, it was definitely like I remember the looking at the kid, and he was a little bigger than me, and I was looking at him. I was like, okay, I was a little nervous. Of course, you're nervous and not scared. It's just that fear of the unknown, but definitely the nerves, just of not knowing, what to expect. You know what I'm saying? So, um, and it's funny though. I lost my first 3 amateur fights, right? But it like those losses, they made me come back. Each time I lost, I came back better, and I came back, I would just get right back in the gym. I would just run harder, train a little bit harder, things like that, because I didn't want to lose. So, that's how I started off. And then after that, I just went on a crazy win streak. Like no one was beating me. But it was like, trial and error. I experienced getting extremely tired and things like that. So it was just a bunch of different experiences. So I mean, I'm thankful for the journey that I had so far.
You never give up. You are a cool person.
Thank you.
Uh, how did you feel after winning your first amateur fight? First
Man,
win.
it was amazing, man. Like I'm not gonna lie, it was the best feeling in the world, and I was super excited, super happy, and then I just love that feeling. I didn't want to give that feeling up. I put so much effort because you could lose a fight and be like, oh, I'm done. I don't want to box no more. But for me, it was like I want to win. I want to win, and I'm gonna keep doing it until I win. And once I got that feeling, it was just just all up from there. So I just remember just being so extremely happy, but couldn't wait to get back in the gym because I wanted to win some more. So yeah.
Who was the toughest opponent you faced in the amateurs?
There was this kid, and he beat me twice. His name was Brian Gonzalez, and he was a Mexican kid from Vegas, and he was just tough, just nonstop. He was just nonstop. And at the time, I didn't really know how to train and get in shape and things like that. And I would come out and be whooping him, but then I would just get so tired. I'll never forget Devin Haney, who's my brother. He's a really good friend of mine. And I was so tired in one of the fights, and he was just. I remember seeing him hollering at me from the as a kid, as a 7-year-old kid, 8-year-old kid, hollering at me from the crowd, and just telling me to keep pushing and keep going. But that kid was the toughest kid I ever fought, for sure, for sure. I don't even know if he boxes anymore, but it was just in my first 3 fights, I fought him twice. Yeah, yeah. So he was tough. He was tough.
What makes him uncomfortable?
It was a little bit of everything. Like I said, it wasn't his skills. It was just like I said, I didn't know how to just get in great shape. You know what I'm saying? Like I was trying, I did a lot of training on my own, a lot of things that you wouldn't expect. Take nothing away from Jeff, but I did a lot of training on my own, a lot of running on my own. Um, I really had to push myself and learn how to get in shape. So it was just one of them things where he just nonstop throwing punches, and I wasn't trained like that. So I wasn't trained in that manner. So, but it prepared me for later down in my amateur career and my professional career.
How many amateur fights did you have before turning professional? Approximate number.
35. I was 30-5. Yeah, 30-5. Yeah. So that was it. And like I said earlier, I felt like I could have stayed a little bit longer, but I felt like at the same time, God knew what He was doing with my plan, so I'm okay with it.
Uh, do you think about Olympics games?
Yes. So 2012, I was in the last chance tournament. Matter of fact, so I fought in Colorado, and the first day, it was like thousands of guys there, right? So you had guys like the top guys like Michael Hunter was in there, Marcus Brown, Caleb Plant. There was a bunch of guys, Terrell Gachet, a bunch of guys that were top amateurs that were in that tournament. Some guys had their spots on lock, like Errol Spence had his spot on lock, um, his division, and certain people like there's those weight classes. Just it was a lock, it was over with. But there was so many of us, man, and I remember I fought in that tournament, and the first day I beat a kid like 26 to like two. 26-2 on points, right? And just whooped him. And then the second day, I knocked the kid out um, in the first round, like cold, knocked him out cold. The third day, I lost by a point in a fight that everybody in the place felt that I won by 1 point, and I kind of felt like, I felt like I won. Everybody felt like I won. But it was one of them situations where you learn how that stuff works, how the amateur system works. And they kind of already had the people that they wanted to go to the Olympics kind of picked, But that was my last attempt at trying. I lost by a point. I felt like, if I would have got that nod, I would have been in the semifinals. I feel like I could have definitely, did something for that spot in the Olympics. But I was still so inexperienced, just very obviously very talented at the time, but it was just a lot of I just needed more preparation, but I definitely tried and gave it my best.
In the USA, it is very difficult to be selected to the Olympics. It is not in Ukraine, where
Yeah.
there is not such competition. We
Yeah.
have weak competition. We have Usyk and Lomachenko went to the Olympics without selection.
Wow. Wow, I didn't know that though. But those guys were legendary, amateur fighters and legendary fighters, period. Great, great fighters, great talents. Special in the pros, as you could see with Usyk. he's the best in the world today. And Lomachenko was one of the best of his time as well. So yeah, outstanding amateur boxers for sure. So you guys pick right with them guys, definitely.
Yes, yes, of
Yeah.
course. What was the biggest difference between amateur and professional boxing for you?
I think the biggest thing with all fighters is there's no headgear and the gloves are smaller. I think that's the noticeable difference that all fighters that go from amateur to professional fear. They when they take off the headgear and the gloves get smaller, things are a little bit different. And of course, so that's I think that's that was the most noticeable difference. And then as you get going in your professional career when you're fighting 6, 8, 10, especially specifically 8, 10, and 12 rounds, the pacing is completely different than a 3-round amateur fight. So that's the difference.
Every fighter evolves with experience. Amateur fights often shape future styles. Did your boxing style change a lot during your amateur career?
As an amateur, like I said, I had always had a professional style, but definitely my style has evolved over the years. It's much more now. I can say I'm so much more well-rounded. Very well-rounded, very versatile. It just shaped and molded. It just shaped and molded into what I feel like is the best fighter that I could be of today, and I'm just continuously trying to get better each and every day.
Looking back at the beginning of your journey can be inspiring. It shows how far a fighter has come. If you could go back and speak to your younger amateur self, what advice would you give?
Just the same advice that I've lived by and that I've stuck with through my whole career and life. Just keep going, man. Just keep going, kid. Just keep pushing, keep working, keep dreaming. Don't give up. Don't stop and just keep pushing. Just work, keep working hard. That's the best advice that I would give myself. Because I think obviously we go through trial and error in life. That's with everybody, but just to keep working hard and keep going and don't never quit.
Kevin, boxing fans always want to know what makes a fighter unique. Every athlete has his own style and identity in the ring.
Yeah.
What would you say is the strongest part of your boxing style?
I would have to say my ability to think at a fast pace. I always feel like I'm a farther steps ahead of the guys that I'm fighting. I'm always thinking I can think at a really high level and at a quick pace. And I know my next move before I even make it. So I mean, of course, you have the speed and you have the reflexes. My ability to see punches is a big thing as well. But it's just the knowledge, man. I think that really is what that's what shapes me specifically as a fighter.
Turning professional is one of the most important moments in a fighter's life. It is the moment when dreams begin to turn into a real career. How did you feel on the day of your professional debut?
You know, my professional debut, man, it was different, man. I was there were so many different things that I turned professional on a big stage on Mayweather Maidana too. It was just different. I was still learning, still trial and error, in my career. And I fought a really tough guy from Tajikistan, I think that's how you say it. And it wasn't a typical debut that you would expect for a young kid turning professional. You turn professional, you hit these guys one shot and they're out of there. This guy was like, I came out, I hit this guy, and he was like not budging. Like he was all muscular and everything. But it was a good experience though. But I ended up I had a draw in my first fight, but it didn't stop me, didn't deter me away from anything. It just made me just get back and work harder in a fight that I felt like I won, and he felt like I won. He thought I won the fight. He actually told people that he felt I won the fight, but we ended up fighting again a couple years later down the line, and I beat him with ease. But I just feel like, you have certain fighters, Bernard Hopkins, I think he lost his first professional fight. I'm not sure if it's Juan Manuel Marquez or another legendary Mexican fighter that lost their professional debut. These things happen, but you see they stayed with it and you've seen what they become. So for me, it's just the same thing. It was just all experience.
The first professional fight is always special. It
Yeah.
is very different from amateur boxing. What was going through your mind when you first walked to the ring as a professional?
Well, see, when I walked through the ring as a professional, it was in the MGM Grand, and it was such a huge arena. And but I remember there was nobody there. I remember Errol Spence came to watch me, and Anthony Durrell, and they came to watch me, and it was just completely empty arena though. But I just remember, going to the ring, and I felt those same nerves that I felt in my first fight, and I just embraced it all, man. But which almost seemed like a blur though, because things just happened so fast. So, but I mean, it's something that I'll never forget, and it'll be with me for the rest of my life.
Do you remember the first punch you threw in your professional debut?
Yeah, it was a jab. It was a jab for sure. I remember I threw a quick jab at him, to kind of startle him a little bit, and he was just pressured. He was just strong. He was just focused on coming forward. So I remember it didn't really budge him, but I remember when I was like, okay. But I remember the first punch he threw at me, and you hear that leather just whiz by. You're like, damn, that's different. It's different, but it doesn't scare you. If you're a true fighter, you just relax. You stay focused and you keep calm under that pressure.
What was the biggest difference you felt between amateur and professional boxing in your debut?
Um, I have to say, obviously, the gloves are smaller. The gloves are smaller, and like I said, the no headgear, and it's just everything is just different. It's just different. Like with the headgear on, you almost get more of that sparring feeling. And the amateurs without it, it's just like you see everything, you hear everything, and that leather on them professional gloves is different than the amateur gloves for sure. But the adrenaline, you still feel the same adrenaline. It's a fight. So those are the biggest takeaways, though.
The first fight was a draw. Your fight against Azamat Umarzoda.
Yes.
What he was uncomfortable. Maybe you were nerves in the fight.
Like what it was is I felt like I won it 3-1. I mean, I kind of it was like I said, it was a lot that went on into that. Like I trained extremely hard and stuff like that, but I was making weight for that fight. Like I was making it for a amateur tournament. So I kind of like shrunk my body down, and my energy wasn't what it should be for a professional fight. Like I weighed in at 163, and the next day I woke up, I was 164 and a half. Normally, you weigh in at the weight and then you put back on your natural weight. So it was just a few different things, man, that kind of just was different about it. But like I said, just trial and error. I just learned. And he was a tough guy. Like I said, he wasn't a debut opponent for he was a guy that had some losses on his record. But if you go back and look at David Benavidez's record within his first 15 fights, he fought this same guy, and that was the only guy on David Benavidez's record that he didn't stop. And we've seen David Benavidez run through everybody. Even to this day, he's still stopping guys. So that was the only guy on his record that he didn't stop. So that just kind of tells you how tough that this guy was. But I feel like I beat him 3-1. So did everybody else, and he thought he lost the fight, but they just didn't see it that way. But we had a chance to do it again, and I made it right the second time around.
Many would leave boxing after a draw in the first fight, but you didn't give up, and
Hmm.
everyone respects you. I respect you,
Thank you.
but the first victory as a professional can be very emotional. It confirms that the new journey has begun.
Yeah.
How did you celebrate your first professional victory? Your
I
fight
was,
against Sharif Wu Johnson.
yeah. No, I was just happy, man, that I got that monkey off my back and got that out the way. And I just couldn't. I was very eager. I just wanted to fight again. I was like, I'm ready to go. You know, it wasn't. I never been the type of fighter to just rest on my victories and just kind of like soaking them. It's always for me. It's like, okay, we did that, but what's next? Okay, we got to get ready for what's next. You know, so that was kind of my thing. I just was happy about it, happy for the night, but then the next day I was like, all right, let's get back in the gym.
A professional career brings new pressure. Fans, promoters, and expectations all become part of the journey. Did you feel more pressure before your professional debut than before amateur fights?
You know, I kind of did because with that, I was signed with Floyd, and Floyd was the most popular fighter in the world at the time. You know, so you know you're with Mayweather Promotions. Your promoter is the best fighter in the world, the most popular fighter in the world. You know, and it comes with a certain level of responsibility. But you know, when after that, I had that draw. You know, Floyd texted me. He reached out to me, and I'll never forget the text he said to me. He was just like, you know, he was like, we're gonna get back. He said, just get back to work. And he said, we're gonna do this shit the right way next time. And that's exactly what we did, man. So, you know, he didn't badmouth me or down talk me. He just gave me some tough love and we I got right back to it.
Then it went well. Third fight victory by knockout
Yeah.
against Richard Urquizo.
hmm
Every How quickly did you feel comfortable in professional boxing?
You know, I that was a good one for me. It was for me like I gained my confidence through results of and activity, you know. So like I was active and like I remember I knocked him out in like the first 40 seconds of the first round, you know. So it was just like that was one of those ones that was like, okay, here we go. Now we're on a roll, you know, and but you know, the confidence just comes from consistently winning, performing well and just hard work, you know. So that was more so what it was about at that time.
You had a series at 7 wins. Your early professional fights are important for building your record. They
Yes.
create momentum. How important were your first few professional fights for your confidence?
They were very important. I mean, you know, because in those first, I want to say 6, 7 fights, I had, you know, some guys were undefeated on there, you know, and two of them were one was on TV, televised, and then one of them was on Floyd's undercard. So it's like, you know, they were very important for confidence for sure, especially beating those guys that were undefeated. Um, And most people don't fight guys that are undefeated in their first 6, 7 fights. You know what I'm saying? That just doesn't happen. You know, I'm not saying that these guys were the best, but they still didn't lose. They hadn't lost. So, but it was like I said, it was a good experience for me. And I just like I said, I keep saying I appreciate the journey that I was on.
I really respect boxers for the pressure they can withstand. Television, cameras, many peoples,
Yeah.
many fighters say the first years as a professional are the hardest. It is the time of learning. What was the biggest challenge during the first years of your professional career?
Um, More so just learning how my body um was operating and changing at the time, you know, like how to make weight correctly, you know, how to eat correctly, how to rehydrate correctly. Like those were big things because in my debut, like I said, you know, I didn't make weight. Like I just came in what I weighed and then I put no weight back on. So it hindered my performance and it hindered my energy. But then like going through those first 6, 7 fights, you know, then it was like, okay, now I know I have to eat a whole lot after the weigh-in. Like I just would go eating like crazy. Then I had to learn, like, okay, you can't do that, you know. So it was just like I said, it was just a big learning curve for me in the first, 6, 7 fights. Plus, on top of that, just fighting these guys and learning while on the job. I was doing a lot of learning on the job, as were, most, especially top level fighters. They come in the game, they got their routine, they know how to make their weight, they know how to rehydrate, they know how to eat, et cetera, et cetera. So it was just a lot of learning on the job. But I feel like, in a sense, like now I've got it down to exactly, I know exactly how I want to do it, and how it's supposed to be done. So I feel like that's why right now at this point in my career, I'm rolling. I'm rolling.
Fighters often learn a lot from their early opponents. Every
Yeah.
fight brings new experience. What did your first professional opponents teach you?
The first, like I said, the first guy, tough, strong, hit hard. It taught me that, okay, boxing is, as a professional, it's not always what you may think it is. And you can't take nobody lightly. You know what I'm saying? So these guys, like I said, some of these guys were MMA guys, so they would switch hit a lot and stuff like that, and it would say they're orthodox. Next thing you know, they're coming in their southpaws. So in my first 8 fights, I fought, I think, 4 or 5 southpaws, which is abnormal for a prospect and guy turning professional. So I just learned a lot. Like I said, I learned a lot on the job, and I just learned that you got to be ready for whatever, for sure.
Fans love to hear about emotional moments in a fighter's career. Debuts are always memorable. Who was the first person you called after your professional debut victory?
I can't remember the first person I called, but I remember the first person that was extremely happy for me was my mother. Like, she's been my biggest fan and my whole career, and she was just so excited and so happy, and I just me and her just had our moment, and then I had my moment with my coaches, but it was just more so about, like, all right, let's keep this thing rolling.
Mom, it's a holy things. It's coming soon on March 8th. You are a festive 8 March in USA.
Hmm. You said what was that again? What'd you say?
You are a festive 8 March in
Oh,
USA.
Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's a big thing. It's a big thing in the U.S. Mother's Day. So I feel like mothers shouldn't be celebrated just one day, because they give us life. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like you should always do your best to treat your mom right, and take care of your mom. Every day that it permits.
That's why I encourage everyone to love moms.
Sure.
Your team plays an important role during the early fights. Support is everything. How important was your team during your professional debut?
My team.
Yes.
It was important. I found a lot of confidence in my team as a young kid, because, like, for me, it was just like, you know, it was like I was always looking for that approval. Like I said, at a young age, I was always searching for approval. So, if Jeff said I did good, I'd be happy. If Jeff said I did bad, I'll be upset, but I would keep working. And I had another trainer as well. His name was Nate Vasquez, and we all just kind of worked on one accord. But my mom was on my team, and everybody. I just look for everybody's approval. So, that was the biggest thing for me. But um, so it just those. I think that's probably the biggest takeaway I could put on that.
As I said, a lot of cameras, spotlights are aimed at the boxer in the pro. Did the atmosphere of a professional fight surprise you?
Um, like I said, in that specific one, it was just such a dead arena. It was like a huge arena. Like, I remember walking out in the MGM Grand, and you see all these seats, and you look around, you see all the lights and everything. But it was such a dead arena. But the one I noticed it was when my next fight, when I fought in, like, more of a ballroom, and it was a lot of people in there. You notice the crowd, but then it's tunnel vision. So then it's like you notice the crowd, but then you're so focused on what's in front of you.
The first fight often builds a fighter's reputation.
Yeah.
Fans begin to recognize talent. When did you start feeling that fans were noticing you as a serious fighter?
Um, I could say, when I had knocked the guy out in 47 seconds, but it was my first fight on Premier Boxing Champions on FS1. And I was 6-0 at the time, fighting a guy that was 7-0. He was like 7-0, 5 knockouts. And I fought him and I knocked him out in round, I want to say round one, at the end of round one. And it was like people got to see and they saw how I did it and in the manner that I did it. It really turned a lot of eyes and people onto me and how serious I was as a fighter. People could see like my talent, my skills, my focus, and at 25 years old, how poised I was. The speed and the knockout power. So it was a really good performance. And like I said, it was on national television, so people all around saw it and they noticed it, and then we went from there.
Kevin, every fighter in boxing eventually faces adversity. Sometimes defeat becomes the greatest teacher in a champion's journey. Do you remember the moment when you suffered your first professional loss?
I do, man, and it was a crazy time. So leading up to that fight, I was fighting on Mayweather McGregor, biggest, you know, biggest card in boxing history in terms of the gate and like how it was. It was Conor McGregor versus Floyd. It was huge. But I fought this kid Marcos Hernandez, and I was extremely sick. I had a bad sinus infection, and I had took some antibiotics like 3 days prior, and then I woke up and like I sucked in like in my nose, and I remember spitting out all this stuff. It was like blood and mucus, and it was just completely draining. I didn't know that what antibiotics did to your body, but it completely drains you. So I fought the kid. It was a close fight. I remember the main thing I remember was going in the locker room before the fight, and I looked up at the lights, and the lights were kind of like spinning. So I was just extremely, like I said, I was extremely sick, and I lost to him, and it was a tough moment for me. It was a tough moment, especially on such a big card in front of, it wasn't, I won't say it was a lot of people there, but it was just such a big moment for me. I felt like it was a coming out party for me, and it was one of them things where God was just like, not yet, not yet, not yet, and so I just, I took that and I made some changes to my team and got back in the gym and was working extremely hard, extremely hard.
Maybe there were a few rounds. In my opinion, if there were more rounds, you could break this fight.
Oh yeah, and that fight, I didn't lose that fight and the guy was better than me or he beat me. It wasn't nothing like, oh, he beat me because he was better than me. I was extremely sick, extremely sick. And I shouldn't have been fighting, to be honest. But, as a fighter, sometimes you do things because, you have to. And we have a lot of pride. And it was just a prideful moment for me. But me and that same guy, we fought a couple years later and I whooped him easy.
I remember how Vasil Lomachenko broke after the defeat by Devin Haney. He
Yeah.
wanted to complete the boxing career. What emotions did you feel immediately after your first loss?
I was, of course, you're hurt. That's the first thing you feel is that hurt. And because you feel like you let yourself down or your team down and you just feel a crazy wave of emotions. It's a surreal thing. But I felt those feelings, I accepted them and I just, got right back out to work, man. Of course, we never want to lose. We hate to lose and things like that. But I just couldn't understand why I was put in that position at the time. Like in a sense of, I don't question God, but I was like, why God? Why this? Why this? Why this? And it was more so like I didn't have an answer until years later. And I got the chance to fight that same kid again. And we were on Showtime this time, Showbox, and the whole world got to see what I said. I said I was sick. I didn't make many excuses. I just said I was sick, and the announcers, they were like, "Well, Newman said he was sick, and so we're gonna find out tonight." And they found out that that truly was the case. Take nothing away from the kid. He's a tough kid, but he wasn't better than me. And I went out and I proved that, beat him at all 8 rounds with ease. So that's how that went.
Many champions say that their losses change them forever. Those moments force fighters to grow. What was the biggest lesson you learned from that defeat?
Like I said, it was just more so for me. It was like, you know, uh, obviously you learn the lessons of, if you're sick, let somebody know. It's just certain things. It's just like, you're sick, let somebody know. Um, instead of just keeping it in, understand that you got to trust in your team, bring it to your team, and let them know, and hopefully they make the decision that they feel is best. Um, and then, of course, the one for me is just to never give up, just to keep going, just keep going. So that was my thing. I got up, dusted myself off, and got right back to it.
Kevin, sometimes the toughest moment in a fighter's career happen outside the ring. Time away from boxing can be mentally very difficult. After you lost, you spent about a year away from boxing.
Yeah.
What was going through through your mind during that period?
It wasn't by my. I didn't want to be away from boxing for a year. It was just I just didn't get a fight for a year. I was in the gym immediately after, continuously just working, countless hours, just getting in better shape, pushing myself and just fixing certain mistakes. And that's all I did. So it wasn't any downtime where I was just like off and I'm like sitting around not going to the gym. That never happened. I was always in the gym the whole time. So yeah, it was just I just didn't fight, and then I was like, okay, cool. When it was time to fight, I was ready.
Did that year away from boxing help you understand yourself better as a fighter?
I won't say it made me understand myself better because I didn't take a year off from boxing. It was just I didn't fight for a year. So, I didn't have a professional fight, but I was, like I said, still in the gym, still working hard, still training. And so I just had time to grow and time to just learn more things.
Comebacks often require a lot of discipline and motivation.
Yeah.
Fighters need to uh, rediscover their hunger. What motivated you the most to make your comeback?
Um, because I knew, what God gave me. I knew how blessed I was, and the dream and the vision that I had, and just that younger self where it was just like, okay, we lost one, but we're gonna keep going. We're not giving up. We're not stopping. So my motivation never left. That's never left me. It was just, yeah, you get down, but you can't stay down. So I got a little down on myself, but I never turned to bad habits with drugs and alcohol and stuff like that. It was just keep working, bro. Just keep working. So, it's just my motivation, obviously. And there's certain things, of course, I had young kids at the time, but I had a dream and a vision. So it was just like, we got to keep going. It's not time. We got to keep going.
Your team can play a crucial role in moments like this. Support from the right people can change everything. Who supported you the most during that year away from boxing?
My mom and my kids, my trainers, of course, they were with me. Then they didn't give up on me, and we just kept rocking. And but definitely my mom, like she was just, like I said, I never was just sitting around just in a daze or just down and sad. But my mom for sure, and just my close friends and close family.
Did that year make you mentally stronger?
Um, I think I've always been mentally strong. So I won't say it made me mentally stronger. It just made me a little more eager because once I get my chance to go back and fight again, I'm we're getting to it. So, that was more so. So when I got back in the ring, I was just ready to rock.
Tell me about your fight against Egerbert Reed.
Yeah.
Coming, coming back after time away can create a new chapter in a fighter's career. It can feel like a fresh start. Did your comeback feel like a new beginning in your boxing journey?
I mean, in the sense of, I was back on the winning track. So, it was some time off, but I had a fight scheduled before that, but that ended up getting canceled. I think this kid was like he had like something to where the commission wasn't going to allow him to fight. But I mean, I was ready. I was ready for the moment. So once we got there, I was like, all right, well, it's time to get back to it. So
Oh, you come back beautifully. Victory, coolly. Your comeback fight must have been an emotional moment. Fans always respect fighters who return stronger. What did it mean to you personally to fight again after a year away?
I was just happy. I was just happy to be back in my element and be back doing what I love to do. As a fighter, when you're not able to do what you love to do, it can be emotionally draining or disturbing and stuff like that. So I was just happy to get back in there. I couldn't wait, and just to go out there and prove something to myself, not to nobody, but just myself.
And every comeback can inspire fans and young fighters around the world. Do you believe your comeback story can inspire other fighters?
Definitely, man. I feel like my story can definitely inspire fighters or just people in general. It's like for me, it's like you can for anybody that's ever followed me, you could see a guy who you know, been down but just keeps going. Been down but keeps going. Been down but just keeps going. And nothing stops me from, shooting towards my goals, and my dreams and just pursuing them with true passion, and perseverance. So, that's I think I have my own. It's funny, like I said, I drew to the Rocky movie as a kid, but I think I have my own, Rocky like story, just within myself. And like I said, my ability to just keep pushing, keep going, no matter what. And cool little underdog story.
Uh, please tell me about two defeats in a row.
Yeah,
They were close fights.
yeah,
Your fights against Genk Plana and
yeah,
Manuel Gallegos.
yeah. Um, Rough time in my life, man. I was going through. This was 2020, and I don't like to make excuses. I was just going through a lot at the time with the mother of my children and just relationships and just mentally just drained. Like, I think fighters now they call it mental health, you know, but I never been big on mental health, but I didn't realize what I was going through, so I was training, but I feel like mentally, like it was just a lot going on in my personal life at the time of the Plana fight. So, and he was a very awkward fighter. I never seen anything like it, but take that away from him, he got the win. Did I think he was better than me? Absolutely not. He wasn't even on my level. But like I said, just a rough time in my life. And then Gallegos, that was a completely different thing. I just think that, you know, um, a lot of people that watched that fight, people from Mexico, they thought I won that fight. I was fighting a hometown kid, in his hometown, Sinaloa, Mexico, and strong puncher. He was, I think, 17-1 with 16 knockouts at the time. Big puncher, and but I went out there and I dropped him. They called it a slip. They took a couple points from me. Just it was just a whole mess. But like I said, it didn't stop me from doing what I needed to do. It was just those setbacks just propelled me and continuously pushed me to where I am today. And as you can see from my record from then on, nothing's getting in my way.
Many, Many great champions say that defeats can teach you even more than victories. I am
Yeah.
curious if that was the case for you. What were the biggest lessons you learned from those defeats?
Well, the first one was just to always be focused and always be mentally prepared, you know, to fight because you can't let other things get in the way or distract you and stuff like that. You got to stay focused on the goal. And the goal is to get your mind and body in the best physical and mental shape it could possibly be in. And nothing becomes before boxing. So you got to put all distractions to the side and deal with all that stuff at another time. And then of course just the second one was just making the right moves. You know, I was so eager to fight after the Polana fight. I took that fight with Gallegos off 15-month layoff, and I just didn't care. I was just asked if I wanted to fight, and I was like, yeah, I want to fight. So just making rational decisions and just having a team behind you that'll help you maneuver in this game because it's a tough game.
You are now in a winning streak at 7 consecutive wins.
Yeah.
This is great. When a fighter starts winning again after setbacks, it shows real determination. I'd like to talk about that winning run you had. How important was it for you to build a strong winning streak after those two losses?
It was very important. I mean, I've been with Roy Jones since 2020, and I was learning and adding new tricks to my game, certain things, and he was teaching me, and a lot of new things that have tremendously helped me. Think people could see it in my fights. You could see, I'm knocking guys out more. I'm performing at a more consistent level in a consistent manner. It's not just up and down. It's like, I think in those seven victories, I think I had 5 stoppages. So just but the consistency of just winning is just on to put me on another level and it's giving me a lot of confidence, and that's not slowing up. That's not slowing up. So yeah.
Confidence is everything in boxing, and a streak of victories can really bring that belief back. Did that winning streak restore your confidence as a fighter?
Yeah. I mean, I never not confident in myself. Like, do I have it or this and that? That was never the thing. Just learning from my mistakes that I made, but it's definitely put me in another realm of confidence. I'm not cocky or I'm not this that, but I'm definitely confident in my abilities and my ability to go out there and win.
Sometimes fighters change their training, their strategy, or even their mindset after defeats. I'm
Yeah.
interested if that happened in your case. Did you change anything in your training after those defeats?
Yeah, I switched trainers after the defeat to Polana, and I've been with Roy ever since, and so we've been locked in. I've added to my team and stuff like that, and people that I've surrounded myself with people that are helping me win and genuinely want to see me win. So, but definitely, like I said, I had to make those certain changes and change it. Those things, those sometimes those things hurt, but it's about me and what's best for me in my career. So I had to make those sacrifices and make those things happen. And now, you see where I'm at.
Your story could inspire many young fighters who are afraid of losing. That's why I'd love to ask you this. What advice would you give to young fighters who experience their first losses?
Just you know, uh, take it as a lesson, not as a loss. And don't beat yourself up too bad about it. Don't be down on yourself too long. You have a goal, you have a vision. You came in with a goal and a vision before you lost. So don't lose sight of it. Dust yourself off, get back to work, and keep going. Um, that's the best advice that I could give anybody because that's the advice that I've lived by. So just keep attacking it, with relentless passion, effort. Keep talking to God and just giving your best.
After Crawford left boxing, your division became free.
Yeah,
Are you believed you the future world champion?
absolutely, man. I feel like, you know, I kind of had a feeling. I told one of my friends, I was like, man, Canelo's going to lose to Crawford because Canelo had all the belts. Said Crawford's going to beat Canelo and uh, he's going to give up all the belts. I think he's going to just relinquish all the belts because Crawford wasn't a real super middleweight anyway. So I was like, man, I got a feeling Crawford's going to beat Canelo and he's going to give up all the belts and the division's going to be wide open. And that's exactly what's happened. All the belts are all scattered around. There's only one world champion at the moment, or two. I think they elevated a kid, and Billy up to WBC world champion. But Resendez is the WBA world champion. The WBO belt is going to be fought for, and then the IBF belt is going to be fought for. But the division is wide open. So I definitely feel like now is my time, and I'm going to get my opportunity to make my dream come true. I think here in the near future.
What line in the ratings are you moving on now? WBC, WBA, IBF, or WBO?
So right now I'm working with the WBA. I've had two of their minor titles, the silver and the gold, the NABA titles. And I actually went to their convention back in, I want to say November of last year. And I spoke to some of the people and higher ups and represented myself. So, but any division, any sanctioning body that's willing to give me an opportunity, I'm down to do it. But the WBA is the one that I'm currently, sought after. I want to go get that belt.
Who do you want to go into the ring against? Maybe versus Canelo?
I mean, I think Canelo is everybody's, in the super middleweight division. I think that's everybody's, dream fight. Not just for the money, but he's been the best guy for so long. But right now I have a opponent in front of me who I'm not overlooking. So with that being said, it's like all I see is him. I'm not looking at the Charlos or the Plants or Canelos and stuff like that. I'm just focused solely on the guy that's in front of me.
How many fights are left before the world champion title?
It's hard to say. I've heard people say that, about me, you're one or two fights away. I've heard people say you're one fight away, but I mean, that's on that's on God to determine. I just feel like every fight that I fight is important. So if it's one fight, if it's two fights, if it's three fights, then they're all important. Just like this next one I have coming up is extremely important to push me towards that.
Are you satisfied with the way the promoters led you?
Um, I have nothing bad to say about any promoter that I've ever worked with. You know, um, Nothing bad to say because I feel like my journey is exactly how God wanted it to be, um, and how it was set up for me to be. So I'm thankful for the opportunities that I had with Floyd. Um, I'm thankful for the opportunities that Roy has given me, Devin Haney has given me, and Premier Boxing Champion has given me. So I'm thankful for all of them. And I wouldn't be where I'm at today without each one of those individual promoters.
Are you planning to climb in the weight category or go down?
No, I'm at 168. That's where I'm at right now. That's my sole focus. So, like I said, I have, a tough young kid in front of me, March 28th in Las Vegas, and but we're at super middleweight, and that's where I'm campaigning.
Who is your favorite boxer ever?
Oh man, Muhammad Ali and Roy Jones. Those are my favorites ever. Like I said, 1A, 1B. I love both of them guys growing up. Sugar Ray Leonard is one of my favorites. I mean, he is, you know, the older I get, the more he looks like the GOAT to me. So, but of course you got, Floyd, James Toney, Tommy Hearns, Pernell Whitaker, Roberto Duran. Um, I could just keep naming guys, but those guys that I just named right there are really truly, my favorites.
Your favorite Muhammad Ali fight and why?
Favorite Muhammad Ali fight is him versus Cleveland Williams. And I feel like because that year in 1963 or 64 was the best version of Muhammad Ali that anybody has ever seen. I think in that fight specifically, you could see the speed, the power, the legs. Um, he was doing the Ali shuffle and knocking the guy down, boxing back and backing up and knocking the guy down. But you seen what prime Muhammad Ali looked like in that fight. I mean, just amazing, amazing fighter. You know, nothing was like him. Nothing like him.
I agree with you. What do you want people to remember most about your career when it's all said and done?
That he made it happen. He never gave up. He made it happen. Uh, he was stubborn, relentless, and a truly talented fighter. With a gift from God. But he went out there and he made it happen under any circumstance that was thrown his way. And those are the main things. And that I was definitely an exciting fighter. Where you got to see a lot of skills and a lot of different things. So those are the main things. And of course that, you know, um, I became world champion and I was a great champion. So those are the main things.
What's the biggest lesson boxing has taught you about life?
That if you get knocked down, you keep going. Um, that's that's the best way I can put it. You just keep going. You know, you knock down, you get up, and you keep going, no matter what. No matter what life throws at you, no matter what you go through, you gotta keep going. Because once you stop, it's all over. So definitely that's been the biggest lesson that boxing has taught me.
The super middleweight division is wide open right now. Who do you think is the real boogeyman at this weight category?
Um, me, me, me. I'm the boogeyman. Um, but I don't really look at any of these guys as boogeymen. We're all fighters. We're all humans. And anybody can be beat. Nobody's indestructible. So, I don't look at none of these guys like a boogeyman. I think that it's the division is completely up for grabs and it's about, who's the best and who wants it the most. There is some tough guys out there. I will say that though. There's some tough, talented fighters out there. And I feel like I'm one of them.
You will win, Osles Iglesias. I believe in it.
Respect that. I respect that. He's a tough, talented guy. Good southpaw, big, strong. But styles make fights. So he's definitely one of the guys that when I look at and I brainstorm and I see names, it's like okay, his name's there. There's a whole bunch of these guys' names that are up there, but right now in my brainstorm, I see one name.
Uh, Canelo has dominated this weight class for years.
Yeah.
Do you think his era at super middleweight is officially over, or does he have one last run in him?
Canelo's a great champion. He's a legendary champion. You can never count a legendary champion like that out. He fought Bud Crawford, who was the best fighter of this era, of his era. So you can't count a guy like Canelo out. I'm sure, him and his team, they're regrouping and they're trying to figure it back out. But you can't count a guy like Canelo out. I mean, he's been dominant for so long, and he's one of the best in the game today. So no, I think that with given the right circumstances, he will definitely be back to his winning ways and be back in a world title fight. I mean, big money, big draw. He's a name, and he's one of the best fighters in the world. How could he not? So yeah, he'll definitely be back at the top.
If the David Benavides versus Canelo fight never happens, how much do you think it hurts the legacy of this weight class?
I won't. I can't. that's just tough, to say that it hurts the legacy of this weight class. That would be a huge, that'd be a huge letdown if it doesn't happen for not just the weight class, but for Mexican boxing. That's a huge fight. You know, even though David is not from Mexico, but he's still of Latin descent. He's a Mexican fighter, and Canelo, obviously, we know he's a legendary Mexican champion. But that is a fight that definitely should have happened. And if them guys, if Canelo goes up to 175 and David comes back down to 175, then I definitely think that it should happen for sure.
Final question, champ. The super middleweight division is heating up. Before we go, do you see yourself as the undisputed king of this weight class by this time 2 3 years?
Absolutely, man. I mean, that's the goal. Given the right opportunities, I'm going to take advantage of each one of them. Starting March 28th in Las Vegas, Nevada, at the MGM Grand with Elijah Garcia. Um, that's one of the first steps. So, I take care of that business, and then we just keep it pushing, and just keep going straight to the top.
And man, I can thank you enough for this interview. It was a legendary conversation. Hearing your perspective on the super middleweight landscape was pure gold. You've got the heart of a lion and the focus of a true champion. And I have no doubt we will see those belts around your waist very soon. I truly appreciate you sharing your story and your fire with us today. Go get what's yours, and I can't wait to see you next masterclass in the ring. Stay sharp and keep dominating. And I truly believe you have everything it takes to clear out the super middleweight division. I can't wait to see you standing there with all the belts. No one belts, all the belts. And over your shoulders as the undisputed king. Go and make history, champ. Thank you very much.
Thank you too, my brother. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate you being a fan of me. I appreciate giving me your time to do this interview. And even wanting to do the interview with me, man, and believing in me, man. That means a lot. Of course, a fighter has to believe in himself, but you know, each and every person that believes in them is just good, positive energy. And that propels over them. And you speaking life into my career, you know, uh, so that means a lot, man. I really appreciate that, man. You're good. You're a real good guy, and I look forward to doing another interview with you when it's that time.
Good luck, champ.
Thank you, brother.
Thank
God
you.
bless.
Goodbye.